Who do we trust anymore? Politicians promise, companies guarantee, influencers exaggerate. And unfortunately, even Christians will sometimes say, I'll pray for you, and then they forget or they just don't. The real problem isn't just that people lie. The real problem is that we've become masters at saying things that sound true while avoiding the whole truth. We've learned to manage perception instead of living with integrity. And here's what's fascinating. We think that this is a modern problem, but it isn't. 2,000 years ago, Jesus confronted a culture that had become obsessed with loopholes, technicalities, and carefully crafted words. And his solution wasn't just simply tell the truth. His solution was far more radical. Become the kind of person whose word doesn't need defending. Welcome to Thinking Aloud, the show where we confront cultural Christianity and dismantle the bad belief systems that keep us stuck so that we can think our way into freedom. We're doing a series right now about the Sermon on the Mount, and we're calling this series Following Jesus into a New Humanity. And many people in modern day Christianity believe that the Sermon on the Mount doesn't apply to us. And I would wholeheartedly disagree with that. I believe it very much does apply to us today. So I hope if you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, that you'd go back and watch those. But this episode will stand on its own just as well. And we're looking at Matthew chapter 5, and we're going to look at verses 33 onwards. Again, you have heard that the ancients were told, you shall not make false vows, but shall fulfill your vow to the Lord. But I say to you, make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Nor shall you make an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your statement be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything beyond these is of evil. So let's get a little bit of context here. In Jesus' day, oaths were everywhere. They were used to provide sincerity in business, marriage, and daily life. But religious leaders had turned them into loopholes, making some binding and others were not binding. This created a culture of half-truths and broken promises. Speaking to ordinary people tired of this, Jesus cuts through the games and says, in my kingdom, your word should be enough. Let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Boy, what kind of world would it be if we would follow this advice? That when you say yes to something, that's what you mean. And when you say no to something, that's what you mean. What kind of world would it be like if we got back to honoring our word, where people knew that when we said something, we meant it, we meant what we said, and we say what we mean, and that we could take a promise to the bank? What kind of world would we live in if our politicians would stop spinning things to get people on their side? Or even the news media, that they would stop spinning things so that people would think a certain way? Why can't we get back to the point where people just say what they mean and then let others decide for themselves? We live in a world just like in Jesus's world where oaths are used all the time. We hear people say things like, I swear to God that this is true, or I promise on my mother's grave this is true. It's almost like we are all conditioned not to believe anything. And who can blame us? With the world the way that it is, and us being lied to so much or given half-truths so much, we don't know who to believe or what to believe. And yet Jesus calls his followers to a higher standard. Jesus says, if you're going to follow me, then let your yes be yes and your no be no. And he goes on to say that anything beyond that is actually evil. So if we're going to follow Jesus, then we need to learn to be people of integrity, authenticity, and people that say what we mean and mean what we say. So let's take a look at this a little bit deeper and see if we can learn some things. Jesus says, you've heard it said, you shall not make false vows, but shall fulfill your vows to the Lord. And so Jesus is about to give a new way of looking at things. He's challenging what they've been taught, and he's going to give them a new way of living things out. Because in his day, vows were binding before God, but people twisted them into loopholes, making promises that oftentimes had escape clauses. Numbers 30, verse 2 says, if a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to bind himself with a binding obligation, he shall not violate his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. And then in Deuteronomy 23, 21 through 23, it says, when you make a vow to the Lord your God, you shall not delay to pay it, for it would be sin in you, and the Lord your God will surely require it of you. You shall be careful to perform what goes out from your lips, just as you have voluntarily vowed to the Lord your God what you have promised. That was the covenant. That was what they were living under. That's what they had been told. And we have a parallel in today's world because we live in a world of spin, exaggeration, and empty words, where people will say one thing, but they don't do what they actually say. And the Israelites that were living in Jesus' time had the Mosaic law, and they were told that, look, when you make a vow, when you make an oath, when you make a promise, especially to the Lord, you need to fulfill that. But Jesus comes along and says, yes, you've heard it said, fulfill your vow to the Lord. But I'm telling you, don't make an oath at all. Just don't make an oath whatsoever. Jesus is not banning contracts, but what he is doing is calling out manipulative speech, words dressed up to sound convincing, but they're empty underneath. Listen to Matthew 23. Verses 16 through 22. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by this temple, that is nothing. But whoever swears by the gold of the temple is obligated. See, there's that loophole. You fools and blind men, which is more important, the gold or the temple that sanctified the gold? And whoever swears by the altar, that is nothing. But whoever swears by the offering on it, he is obligated. Again, a loophole. You blind men, which is more important, the offering or the altar that sanctifies the offering? Therefore, whoever swears by the altar swears both by the altar and everything on it. And whoever swears by the temple swears both by the temple and by him who dwells within it. And whoever swears by heaven swears both by the throne of God and by him who sits upon it. So Jesus is showing them, look, you can't just have a loophole that if you swear by this, it doesn't matter. But if you swear by this, then you really have to pay attention and fulfill your obligation. Jesus is saying to us here in Matthew 5, just don't make those type of promises at all. Just if you say that you're going to do something, if you agree to do something, then do it. You don't have to make an oath to convince somebody that you're going to do it. The problem is in our culture, we have all kinds of people, whether it's politicians or even sometimes preachers, that hide the truth in sound bites. We say a little bit of truth, but we're not telling the whole truth. And the problem is this, that as human beings, we oftentimes will believe the first thing we hear or the first thing that we read. It's very important in our day to fact check everything. I've been guilty of this, reading something on Facebook and immediately becoming angry or outraged by what I just read. But now I'm much more careful to fact check it before I allow my emotions to get the best of me. And oftentimes I have found out that if it's not entirely false, there's oftentimes enough spin on it that they're telling you a partial truth, but not the whole truth. And they're spinning it to make it appear one way instead of the way it really is. And we do that to make our opponents look bad. And as followers of Jesus, we are not allowed to do that. We are not allowed to look at people through the eyes of the flesh. We have to see them as loved, valued people, image bearers of a loving God who Jesus died for. Then we have companies all the time making promises that they can't keep. We hear things in advertising like, this is the best ever. This is guaranteed results. All of these different things. And so many times we overpromise and underdeliver, and then people are the victims of our falsehoods. And it's got us to a point now where we just don't trust anyone. We don't know who to trust. We don't really know who to believe. And that's really sad, especially when it comes to the church. The church ought to be the most trusted institution in the entire world because we are following Jesus. And unfortunately, due to cover-ups and scandals and all kinds of other issues, the church oftentimes is not the most trusted place anymore. And people look at the church and Christians with suspicion, and in many cases, rightly so. But you and I, as followers of Jesus, we have an opportunity to counteract that simply by being people of our word. That when you say yes, that's what you mean. And when you say no, that's what you mean. You don't hide behind sound bites. You tell the truth always. And you don't spin things to make yourself or anything that you're a part of look better than it really is. And you don't spin things to make other people look worse than they really are. So we find that Jesus tells us, let your yes be yes and your no be no. See, that's radical simplicity. Say what you mean what you say. It's really that simple. The problem is we live in a culture where we're not really taught to do that. And we've got to get to the point where we get back to the way we've lost. We rediscover the Jesus way. And we understand that Jesus is setting the pattern for what humanity is supposed to be like. See, in a culture where trust is in short supply, this idea of saying what you mean and mean what you say, it's actually revolutionary. So when Christians say, I'll pray for you, that we actually do it. And one of the best ways to do that is when you tell someone that you're going to pray for them, do it right then. Do it at that moment. Two things are going to happen. One, it will keep you from becoming a liar or forgetting. But secondly, it's going to show that person that you care enough about them that you're going to pray right then and right there. Jesus says that anything beyond a simple yes or a simple no is from the evil one, because lies, spin, and exaggeration all smell like Satan, the father of lies. I want to say that again because I want you to understand the seriousness of what Jesus is saying here. Anything beyond a simple yes or a simple no is from the evil one, because lies, spin, and exaggeration all smell like Hasatan, the accuser of the brethren, the liar, the Satan. So what's our application here? Well, it's really simple. Just be honest. Don't be afraid of honesty. Well, you might say, but I don't want to look bad. Well, if they catch you in a lie, then you're going to look worse. I would much rather be honest and look bad than to be dishonest and look even worse. So practically in relationships, stop ghosting people. Stop stringing people along. Stop saying what they want to hear and just simply be real. And you know what? You don't have to be brutally honest. Some people say, well, I'm just a brutally honest person. Yes, you are to speak the truth and be honest, but you're also to do it in love. We are to speak the truth in love. And sometimes being in a loving manner, it's just to keep silent so that you don't say something that's going to hurt someone. And you have to follow the Spirit and to know when to stay silent and when to speak up. Another application is in our businesses and our work, our place, our jobs. Don't shade the truth to close the deal. Don't shade the truth to pad your resume. And don't shade the truth, to hide your mistakes. Be honest about them. In our churches, in our faith communities, don't overpromise or fake spirituality. Let honesty and humility mark your witness. Don't overpromise. Don't act more spiritual than you are. Don't act like you have it all together when you really don't. Don't tell people you're fine when you're not. Don't promise things that you can't deliver on. Just simply let your yes be yes and your no be no. And then just personally, drop the exhausting performance of exaggeration. You know, we exaggerate to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. But real freedom comes with integrity. Real freedom comes when we are comfortable in our own skin and we're not getting our validation from other people's opinion of us. And I know that's really hard. Our validation comes from the Father. We are loved and accepted by Him, regardless of what other people think about us. Now, again, this is simple, but it's radical in our culture. So let me finish out with this. Jesus calls us to a way of life where our words don't need spin, they don't need hype or loopholes. In a world that's addicted to image and exaggeration, followers of Jesus must stand out with integrity. We need to be honest. In a culture of hype, truth is radical. And you know, I never thought I would ever have to say that statement right there, that truth in our current culture is a radical concept. Just be true. Just be comfortable in your own skin. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Because Jesus is telling us in His kingdom, the kingdom that He established, truth is so central that you don't need props, you don't need loopholes. Your word stands because your life stands. So today, I just want to challenge you. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I hope this has helped you. I hope this has caused your thinking to expand a little bit. If you would, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and reach out. I would love to hear from you. I read all comments. I read all messages. We would love to hear from you. And if you're ever in the West Tennessee area, specifically Dyersburg, we would love to have you come visit us at Renovatus Church. We meet every Sunday night at 6 p.m. at 202 East Court Street. That's actually the community church. They allow us to use their facility, but we would love to have you. You can find out more information on our website, renovatus.org. We would love to see you. So I just want to end with this. You are a son or a daughter of God. You are loved. You are known. You are accepted. You belong, and you are provided for because of your Father in heaven. And that, my friends, is enough. So until next time, may God bless you abundantly. God bless.